Welcome back to some new Malicious Compliance Stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called In 9 Years. I used to work in a training center for a Fortune 500 company. When class wasn't in session, the building normally only had 4 people in it. Me, the trainee, the boss, and the 2 trainers. I called in sick 2 days in a row. On the second day, the boss starts ranting at me about how kids these days have no discipline. And I haven't taken a sick day in 9 years. I tried asking if he wanted me to get a doctor's note, but he was pretty adamant about me coming in the next day. He said that he can decide if I'm actually sick and he can send me home. I was one of the few women working in that section of the company, less than half everyone's age, and felt like arguing with him about it was a bad idea. Cue Malicious Compliance. That next morning I decide to not pump myself full of cold meds and just go in. As soon as I walk in the door, the trainers look at me and I say, "I'm very sick, might want to give me a wide berth." They looked at me wide-eyed, nodded and went to a different section of the building. The boss hears me coughing so hard I'm having to gasp for air like I just emerged from the depths. He walks in and goes, "Oh, you really are sick. You should go home. But I don't understand how you got this sick," and then reminds me I haven't taken a sick day in 9 years. So I drive home and come back in the next day. The trainers look at me and say, "What are you doing here?" The boss said that if I'm actually sick, he can send me home. They laughed and avoided my section of the building. The boss once again hears me coughing and gasping for air and comes in and dismisses me, and this time tells me that he doesn't need more proof. I can come back when I feel better. 4 days later, Mr. I haven't taken a sick day in 9 years was sick with some nasty lung nonsense and was out for a week. If only he had more discipline. The next story is called Management Contract. This company wasn't new. They had been around for about a decade before I was hired. When I started there, it was only about 60-ish employees, of which 15 to 20 were just hourly wage nobodies like me. I just had the luck of the draw that my team had 4 managers over my area. I was in a role that wasn't supposed to have any management elements, but turns out that not long after I started, 3 out of the 4 on the management team moved on. I slowly took over some of their responsibilities. After about 6 months, I was starting to feel overworked, and I went job hunting. Having listed the responsibility I had with this position got me a management role somewhere else with substantially higher pay. I even got them to let me have a month before starting, because I wanted to give a longer notice than 2 weeks to be nice. After I had given my 1 month notice, they were very dismissive of me leaving and acted like it wasn't a big deal. They thought they could spread out what I did among the others in the management team. They were so certain that they could handle my job description of responsibilities that they even told me in writing they didn't need a transition period or training and didn't want an exit interview. They even offered me a week early leave with pay because they just thought it was handled and that I was useless. Before that week was out, I was getting calls, texts and emails from higher ups and HR. They were trying to tell me that I am contractually obligated to help them transition, and that if I didn't, that they would sue me for breach of contract. Now, the best part of this is that when I was hired, I was simply an hourly employee with no special contract, besides the standard employee agreement for hourly workers. But since I had started doing management level work, everyone had assumed that I was made to sign the management contract. It required management to work past their notice if the company requested it for handover training or anything the person was working on that couldn't be finished by anyone else. So within a week, they were frantically trying to get me to help them, and I had already started working with my new company half a week early. I was ignoring their calls, texts and emails because I was diving headfirst into my new role. Even after the threats, I thought they would have figured out that I didn't sign that contract. About another week later, I was served papers at my new office, and it shocked me honestly. I read over the paperwork, and they were suing me for breach of contract, and it listed our law firm on it obviously. So I decided to call them up and ask them if they had a signed contract, and I was laughed off the phone by the law office clerk. Just 3 days later, I received a certified letter from the law firm with an apology for being served. and it had official documentation showing they dropped the lawsuit. Apparently, they dropped that company as a client for unethical practices. I never got another text, call, or email from anyone at that company or law firm. It felt nice that I shut down a lawsuit with a single question. The last story is called She Wouldn't Listen. Many years ago, before people had cell phones and tablets, it was difficult to stay entertained or keep in contact with friends if you were too far away. I was a teenager who liked watching TV, listening to top 40 music, going to the mall, and hanging out with friends. My parents were divorced, and I spent every other weekend with my dad, who lived out of town, so I only got alternate weekends in town to spend with friends. Then my mom started dating this guy. Eventually, I had to go with my mom to spend weekends at his place. In town, but downtown, far from our house, and no other kids around. Now my weekends at home were spent at his place, instead of at home or hanging out with friends. It was a small one-bedroom apartment, and I had to sleep on the guy's sofa. Plus, he had no TV, and his idea of fun was to go on nature walks, go shopping at weird places, cook strange food, or go to a classical music concert or a jazz club. Or maybe stay home and read or play musical instruments. Some of these don't seem so bad now as an adult, but kid me, I just wanted to do typical teen things. Plus, I was a picky eater, and I hate all the weird food they cooked. Since I didn't want to go there, I would often tell my mom I was sick and ask her to stay home. I was the youngest, and older siblings were home but provided little supervision. Sometimes she would let me, but other times she would insist I go along too. One time I was truly feeling ill, like I was going to throw up. My mom announced we were going to her boyfriend's place for the weekend. I told her I felt sick, but she immediately cut me off. Said she was tired of hearing about it, and I needed to stop saying I was sick. So I packed my bag and stopped telling my mom how sick I felt. Along came the boyfriend in his fancy car to pick us up. We made it 2 blocks from the house before my stomach proved the fact that I was actually sick this time. He quickly put the back window down, and I almost made my head out the window in time, but not totally. He immediately turned the car around and took us back home. The best part? He was so focused on getting the interior of his vehicle cleaned that he failed to notice the part that splashed down the outside of the vehicle when I did finally get my head out. By the time he got it cleaned off, it had edged some of the paint color of the car, and it was permanently stained. Well, at least I kept quiet about feeling sick. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.